Hello, hello, hello. I am here today with Justin Frye. We're going to talk about his really cool open source project, pgFirstAid. But first, as always, some housekeeping. One, if you can hear the landscapers behind me, I do apologize. They showed up right in the middle of the interview. So they couldn't really do a whole lot about that. Hopefully we can edit that out, that landscaping sound. Couple pieces of errata. We are going to do the mailbag episode. I have been having some scheduling issues. I actually have it in the can already, but I'm not sure who I have scheduled for next week. So if it's nobody, that'll be the mailbag. And I think that's probably a better way to do things going forward because all these folks are busy. I'm busy. Things happen. Ceilings collapse. All kinds of crap, right? So good. Instead of missing a week, good to just be prepared. Also, we do have the Discord channel, as most of you know. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in there. I'll be honest, I have kind of fallen behind on it because it's moving too fast and there's a lot of different threads, a lot of different people talking about different projects or games or just really whatever they're working on. So it's cool times. Do check out, there's a link in this, but you could just go to alice.dev, Legacy Diagnostics, or just go to alice.dev and there's a link. I'm running a promotion for my kind of legacy diagnostic thing for all you guys in the dark enterprise running old systems that might want to either move forward or just clean it up a little bit. We're running a fixed price promo for that till the end of June. And yeah, that's going to be it. We've got an exciting new sponsor coming on, I think, in June. And we've got, what else do we have? Oh, we have some good episodes lined up. I'm, again, because scheduling just got demolished. It's conference season, right? So everybody, including me, is kind of running around. So I'm not entirely sure the order of the episodes coming out. It's going to depend on who can, get on when. And frankly, some episodes come out super clean and don't take a lot of work editing. Sometimes the landscapers show up in the middle, and that takes a bit longer. So there's that side of it too. All right, well, enjoy the show. All right, well, I'm here with Justin Frye, the creator, the genius, the madman behind pgFirstAid. Justin, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. So what is pgFirstAid? Let's just jump in.
Yeah. So pgFirstAid, if you've ever heard of Brent Ozar's first responder kit for SQL Server, it's basically inspiration from that. So it's an actionable health check tool for Postgres. Give to pretty much anybody. It doesn't have to be a DBA. It could be DevOps, home lab, doesn't matter. So it gives you information on what you can do better about your Postgres database and no dependencies. That's the big kicker, is that you can basically create the function and run it without having to worry about missing some sort of extension. That's the whole point of it.
Nice. So what made you, like, what's the story, right? What's kind of the hero's journey of making this?
Yeah. So I started out as a QA engineer and then kind of got myself into being an accidental DBA through a friend of mine.
As many of us have.
Yeah, exactly. It was more like sysadmin DBA, but I was working for a company that had a lot of SQL Server instances. So I got used to using tools like the First Responder Kit, SP Who's Active, and like Ola Hellengren's maintenance plan. These are all core tools that a lot of SQL Server DBAs use. So as I moved on in my career, I kind of fell into loving Postgres, working with other companies using like MariaDB, MySQL, but ended up really focusing on Postgres. And the one thing I missed was having something that I could just run right away in a database that I haven't touched before, or, was one of those databases or Postgres databases that was underperforming, or there was a big issue going on and they wanted to dial in what the problem was. So being a Postgres lover, I kind of said, okay, why not start now? It took me a while, to be honest. I have 3 kids, so a lot of my time is spent between 3 kids and sports. So it took until June of last year to start, and that's essentially how I got into it.
I feel that, man. The kids take a lot of time. Plus, you have to do, your actual paying work, right?
Yes, this is all for free.
Yep. The side projects can get pushed to the side.
Yeah. So, exactly. Yeah.
But you finished it, right? So it's out and about. So for someone who, like me, who's not, very deep into the SQL Server side of the world,
Mhm.
Where does this fall into my normal Postgres stack?
Yeah. So, well, like most relational databases, there are things called like stored procedures, functions, views, and things like that. pgFirstAid is a function for Postgres. So you basically run a single command to install said function, and then you use normal SQL language just to do like a select star from pgFirstAid, and that shoots out, depending how big or busy your database is, will shoot out a bunch of health checks in the results and provide you documentation, suggestions. So it's not just a, hey, you have something not working, figure it out. It's, hey, regardless of your skill set, this is somewhere you can enhance the Postgres database, and this is how you can do it. So yeah, it should be relatively straightforward. That's the point. I didn't want this to be an overly complicated tool, which there are a lot of them for Postgres and all the other relational
Oh, yeah.
databases.
There are
So
many
yeah,
vendors who will sell you unbelievably difficult to use enterprise Postgres software. So
yeah, exactly. So this should be easy, and it's open source, just like Postgres. Digging into open source. So anytime I get help, the community is something I spend, or I will spend most of my time in when I do have free time, is doing
nice,
stuff for open source.
nice. So well, I should ask the question more directly. Are there any other dependencies beyond Postgres that you need to actually use this?
No, as long as you can connect, you've got a tool to connect to said database. So, like dbeaver is a great open source, free to use tool. It's a UI version, a GUI essentially for connecting multiple different types of databases. But that would be your way to install it. You can go through psql, the shell command, which is built in with Postgres.
Yep.
But yeah, again, zero dependencies. The one caveat I will give is there is the infamous PG stat statements for those who are in Postgres world that provides even more functionality or data on system level tables and whatnot. That is not required here, but I have been adding kind of a, if you have, then provide these extra checks if that is installed. But again, it's supposed to be low barrier of entry, and you can start hitting out those low hanging fruit.
Okay, so it's a if you have it, great. You get more, I guess, analytics, or
Yeah,
what are you? Okay, you get more
yeah,
analytics, but if you don't, you're fine. It's
yeah,
so it's the kind of thing, I guess, that if you didn't have it installed already, you wouldn't know what you're
exactly.
missing because you probably don't know about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, I had given a talk at Scale this year for PG First Aid. Kind of blew through it,
Nice.
to be honest. It was like a 15-minute talk in a 50-minute window, but we had a lot of questions, and someone had asked in the audience how I got around not having to rely on PG stat statements. I think
Yeah.
I gave the answer. I haven't found a issue with it. And of course, like 2 weeks later, I started running into a lot of issues where I couldn't provide enough details in a health check because it required something that PG stat statements would provide. So I laughed and kicked myself, but it is not an easy task. But there are a lot of tools now that we have today that make it a little easier, and
Right.
documentation's a lot better than it was 5, 10 years ago.
Well, and every time you give a talk and you answer a question without like a
Mm,
really solid, like, serve that ball right back,
yeah.
uh, you're just asking for it, right? If
Yeah.
someone's gonna fix the issue, it's they're on their MacBook or whatever they've got, and they're just like, okay, sure,
Yeah.
let's here comes my next Hacker News topping blog post, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
it was fun.
yeah, no, it's always good. It's always in fact, I'm supposed to be giving a talk at the end of the summer, and I'm sure I know for a fact I'm gonna get eviscerated. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm doing something a little heterodox. Great. So it's open source. Do you have? I'm sure you do know off the top of your head which license.
GPL 3.
Oh, you hippie.
Yeah. Yeah, I think any projects that I use are always going to be that. I have to double check though, because with Postgres, it's not really a Postgres license carryover, but if I have to change it, it's not like the end of the world. But yeah,
Well,
always GPL 3
I
for
don't think you
me.
would have to change it because it doesn't actually. I mean, the way I looked at it, it doesn't go into like your project, right? It's
Yeah.
just a tool you're using, so
Yeah, exactly.
it wouldn't contaminate. Like if you're doing consulting work or whatever.
Yeah, that's always a gray area. I try to be as pragmatic as possible, especially being a NixOS user. So just trying to be smart.
Yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I totally agree. Where possible, the GPL. I've talked about this for a long time, but when they were a small, scrappier company, Docker, back when they were .cloud, in my opinion, made a pretty bad mistake
Yeah.
in that the biggest beneficiary of Docker financially ended up being Amazon.
Yeah. It's funny
Yeah,
how that works.
yeah, that didn't go so well for them. So,
No.
and that it's ended up being the whole rationale for like the Docker Enterprise editions. 'Cause it was
Yeah.
like, we have to somehow capture some of this market.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
I find there's a good company, and I'm not trying to toot their horn all the time, but like dbeaver is fantastic because they've like found the perfect medium of providing a really great open source tool, the opportunity for you to use it and contribute to it. But they've got this really good fine line where they've determined, okay, these are the features that
Mm,
the enterprise get, as well as like the bigger teams. And that's really hard to come by in open
super hard.
source. That's how a lot of them fail because they can't find it.
Well,
So
right, 'cause you don't want your open source SKU, for lack of a better term, right, to be
yeah,
so anemic that it's kinda, not providing value at
you don't want to
all.
pull the rug. Yeah, you don't want to pull the
Right.
rug underneath them.
But you don't wanna give away the farm and end up in that terrible .cloud Docker situation where
Yes.
it's like, "Oh my god, I just, like, handed my business over to Amazon," right? Like,
Yeah, that free tier is no longer a free tier. You have to start paying $10 a month for the subscription fee. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Or 100.
A and to be fair to the company now known as Docker, they did recover. They did figure it out, but I that had to be scary, and for little guys like us, it's even worse. It's even easier to get rolled, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Because there comes into, like, well, can you actually enforce that? That
yes.
license?
Easy targets.
Easy targets, yeah. So what is the roadmap like for, PG First Aid?
I think for right now, it's to continue finding a few more ways to incorporate some checks. There was a talk on Saturday just at Boise Code Camp. I had a suggestion about adding some sort of check to query the plans for some of the queries that were going on and identifying missing indexes, which is probably the lowest hanging fruit you can tackle to improve your performance, is providing those. So it was a great idea. It's a little more complex, so it'll require some deep work, but I have a problem with starting a lot of projects. I'm
Yep,
sure a lot of us do, but
I feel
I'm
your
sure you
pain.
saw the news about PG Backrest. I might be pursuing, even though they've got funding again, I might pursue creating something adjacent to that, but in Rust, of course. So we'll
Of
see.
course, you gotta, because you know what? Your Reddit traffic just goes up 25% if you do it in
Yeah,
Rust.
more
Yeah.
selfish wanting to learn Rust because apparently that is everything, even in the data world. Somehow Rust and Go are finding their way in it. So might as
No,
well.
you know what? Yeah, I'm actually doing something in Rust too, a side thing, and it's like, it's really come a long way. The tooling's pretty good.
Yeah.
Um,
So we'll
yeah,
see.
so I'm curious, would this also be open source? I'm not trying
Oh
to push
yeah.
you to share. Okay,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't know. I don't want to say I like don't like the man or like corporate greed, but like the typical open source person who really just likes doing this, and
sure.
we all benefit from a lot of these types of tools like PG Backrest, that when times like this come up and they lose funding or they're tired because a lot of reasons,
Life,
you start to
right?
go, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we are so dependent on it. So I'd like to try and add more diversity really and provide a tool. If it works out, great. If not, I learned a little bit about Rust and now I can go build another tool. So we'll
Oh, and
see.
it's a tool you probably need, I would assume,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And,
So
and
you may be the primary user, you may not, right? It all comes that way.
yeah, exactly. So lots to see. I don't As far as PG first aid, we've already got about, gosh, last time I checked, it was above 40 checks. So it's a lot. I don't want it to be too bloated so that people become
Yeah.
overwhelmed. So there are some ideas I have of very similar to first responders kit where Brent Ozar splits it into different types of more finite procedures that you can run that will give more details on a specific area rather than kind of broad information. So we'll see. It all depends on time.
Have you thought about, and this is just my crazy pitch because for the thing I'm working on, kind of like I hate the phrase progressive disclosure because it's used wrong, but I'm going to use it wrong too. Progressive disclosure situation where the default install is like the bare bones, set of features, and then you can add them in as modules or something.
Yeah.
Being very sloppy with terms here, right?
Yeah. I think that's what kind of Brent and his team, when they were built, they continue to work on the first responder kit, is that they went that route. There's one of my favorite things about that is there's a particular script where you run it and it installs all of the procedures. And then there's a setting where it says bring the pain, and it basically just sends all of the data into your results field.
Does it actually bring the pain?
Yeah, it's literally it says bring the pain. It's like a 0 or bring the pain equals 0 or something like that. I can't remember what the command. It's been a while, but it's really good. But he did it really well, splitting it out, and that's probably the route I would go. But right out of the gate, pgFirstAid, the function itself, will give plenty of information.
Makes sense. So, as we always wrap up, what is one tool that you do not make that you can't live without? It can be anything, right? Popular choices include coffee. And weirdly enough, e-bikes have been having a recent moment, which I kind of get, I suppose.
Tool.
We'll define super loosely, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I would say probably books. I mean, books and outdoor. We were outdoor family, so we go hiking, and that's part of the reason why we came out to Boise, Idaho.
Nice.
So being outside, doing hikes in the foothills, just really being in nature, that's my decompression. It has always been, and I continue to use that as a place for like inspiration as well. So going out, being quiet, and that's usually where all of my random projects start, is out in the middle of nowhere. And I come home in a mad dash to write it down so I don't forget. So I would say outdoors, more or less.
I love that. That you were the first person to say that, but you know what? That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, well, that's shocking. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of us in this community that go outside, but they forget about it and don't take advantage about it.
Yeah, I guess the e-bike guys is kind of the same thing, right? Because they like the one guy does, he had a name for it, but it's basically just like long
cycling.
bike ride. Cycling, right? But like more mountain biking. But I guess there's now I know nothing about e-bikes other than the kids in my neighborhood like to dash out with no wheels.
Going way too fast.
Way too fast. And I'm like, you're 10. What are you doing?
Yeah,
I'm driving. This car weighs a ton. I'm just letting you know, if I can't see you, we're all going to be very, very sad.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, and it's funny. The outdoor thing makes a ton of sense. When it's not 4,000 degrees down here, I also like to take like hikes, stuff like that.
Yeah. The joy of being here is we get 4 seasons, and it gets hot, really hot in the valley, and especially in the foothills. But coming from Chicagoland area, I will take it any day where I don't get snow and it's not humid like it is down by you. I don't have those problems. I have just really nice weather, beautiful scenery, and I'll take it.
Makes sense to me. Well, Justin, thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Michael.
All right, talk to you soon.
All right, bye.